Hey everyone, and welcome back to another edition of NASCAR DFS Preview. I'm AustYn.
And I'm Yacs.
And we are going to Talladega Superspeedway for the Geico 500. Now, as you all know, Talladega is a two and
two-thirds, yeah, basically.
mile oval. It's the biggest track on the circuit. It's a little bigger than Daytona, a little wider, so you're going to have a lot of 3-4 wide racing. You can have 3 or 4 wide racing. They may pick one line and just ride around. You never know about these races.
It's tough.
But it's a tapered spacer event. You're going to catch me saying plate racing a lot, as I always do, because it's been that for years. So I tend to call it that. But in terms of watching it, it's one of my favorite events. I love watching it on TV. I love watching the draft. It's exciting. It's amazing seeing what they can do at 200 mile an hour, with cars door to door, and it's almost like you're moving so fast that they're just right there,
It's nonstop action.
Yeah. And but in terms of DFS, it is absolute chaos. It is one of the hardest things to dissect. You can have a strategy, but it's really pretty basic. It's you have to get kind of cute with it if you want to do a tournament to try to figure out, pick somebody where drivers, pick drivers that other players aren't picking.
Yeah.
And that's where the difficulty kind of lies. Me personally, I'm going to be rolling out one lineup, and I'll kind of show you what my lineup is, and then I'll maybe walk you through what a lineup would be like if I'm picking off the top of my head of the best drivers at this track. Because I think, honestly, your strategy for both ways could be beneficial. Daytona and Talladega have always been very difficult ones for me. I did win at Daytona this year, but that it doesn't happen very often. And you're going to be able to see what DraftKings and FanDuel has to offer in terms of tapered spacer racing. That sounds really weird, but so yeah, it's 500 miles, 188 laps. Just to give you a little specs on the race. The Goodyear tire notes on J-Ski stated that it's the same tire they've been using for years and years. I don't know the exact year, but the point is it's been a few years. Also, they've been doing the tapered spacer thing for 2 years. This will be the 3rd year, probably.
Sounds right.
Because I remember the first year I did these videos, they were still restrictor plates.
Yeah.
So they have 7 sets of tires. Talladega has not been paved since 2010, and so that means that tire wear will be a little bit of a factor. So I believe it does wear a little more than Daytona. I'm just getting her say because of the weather, but in Alabama, it's probably warmer in Daytona. But then again, you have the humid.
It's more humid at Daytona, but
yeah,
it's probably not too
You're in the southeast.
Different than what Daytona would be rolling out at this time.
Yep. And it's a track I've never been to. I have been to Daytona, but I've never been to Talladega, so I think that would be pretty cool. So yeah, that's pretty much all the specs on it. Do you have anything to add there?
Don't be afraid if you're making a lineup and you have a few thousand left over. Just get creative with these lineups. That's our best advice to you.
Yeah, the pricing is honestly, to me, and I'll get into this here in a second, but let's go ahead and see what DraftKings has to offer. I'll just go ahead and do that, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So, were you finished?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So, looking here, Brad Keselowski is your first driver, starting in 10th at 10.5. Chase Elliott starting in 8th at 10.3. Ryan Blainey starting in 7th at 10.1. Denny Hamlin starting on the pole at 10,000. So, we only have 4 10K drivers. Now, here is my thing about the pricing for DraftKings this week. Now, in the past, we have been waiting until Wednesday night to get the pricing, and they don't normally do it by how good the driver performs. It's really about positive potential points, positive EV. Now, why on earth would some of the drivers not starting towards the back not be more expensive? Because to me, that formula would be equating to that. But what do I know? It's fine. I think they basically just throw them out there. They give you some drivers. And Martin Truex Jr. at 8,900, I know he's bad at restrictor plates, but good Lord. That's really cheap.
Yeah, that's cheap.
At any other track. And you do have to put that in mind. Kevin Harvick starting in 16th is pretty interesting. He's been having a rough year, so they priced him at 96. Scroll down here. Harrison Burton's starting in 39th at 7-9. Now this is his first start, and I really don't know how that's going to work out. I do know that he'll probably be chalky, to be honest. But I'm actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to dissect it this way. Cody Ware is your cheapest driver at 4,500, starting in 33rd. It's a great value, honestly. He finished in the 20s in his last restrictor plate race. He did some sports car road course stuff before he came to the Cup Series. And as you know, Rick Ware Racing is his son. Cody is his son. He finished in the top 25, so that's not bad. But that's not a bad value. Quinn Howe starting in 32nd. His average finish at Talladega is 20th. So that's interesting. BJ McLeod in the Live Fast starting in 31st. He finished in the 20s at Daytona. Joey Gase is running a Davey Allison tribute car, number 28. It's actually the number... It's not the number 15, is it?
I don't remember.
It's one of those Rick Ware cars.
I just have to look. I don't remember what number it is.
It's one of the Rick Ware cars.
15,
I do know that.
15 sounds right.
I think it's J.J. Yaley at 15, though.
I'll take a look real quick, though, once you're
talk. Yeah, so... going through those drivers, one that I'm absolutely going to pick, and I'm not going to waste any time, is Timmy Hill. Timmy Hill starting in 40th. I know he's driving for MBM Motorsports, but he can't finish worse than 40th. So, this will actually help the strategy that I'm kind of going with. Mine is more of a cash game strategy, but I do have a tournament pick for sure in here. But Timmy Hill is my option starting in 40th. I do know he'll be riding around. Timmy Hill, if you watch a lot of his races, I don't have a lot of statistics to back it up, but I do know from the eye, it seems like he avoids a lot of wrecks. He's always out of trouble. He takes care of equipment. That's why he's actually been in the Cup Series for like almost 10 years.
It don't seem like it's been that long.
It's been a long time.
It has been a while. Joey Gase was number 28 this week.
Yep. Yeah, so, which is kind of nostalgic, I guess.
Yeah.
But Timmy Hill starting in 40th. I really like Timmy. I really don't know if he's going to be chalky. I feel like he will be. But I'm going with him. I don't really care about what the chalk is. So then you have J.J. Yaley, Josh Bilicki. You're going to be seeing a lot of guys, like a lot of different DFS players. They're going to be playing probably the last 6 cars in the field. Wouldn't shock me a bit. And truthfully, it doesn't... Here's one statistic that I found. I'm trying to think. It was either the last race or the race before that at Talladega. You did have a lot of drivers that started in the 30s that finished in the top 10. Like, I'm talking like 8 or 9 of the top 10 finishers were in the 30s.
It was either Daytona or Talladega.
Yeah.
And I do remember that.
And other than that, I'll give you a fun fact for Talladega, and I don't know if Yachts had this stat, but the last time a driver has won from outside of the top 20 at Talladega. What do you have for that? What do you think?
I knew Denny Hamlin won from the 34 spot, but I don't know if he was the last one.
He was the last one.
He was the last one. Was it at 34?
But it was in 2014.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it was like 2013 or 2014.
Since then, there's not been a driver start outside the top 20 to win the race.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
It is crazy.
Also, there's only been 5 outside the top 20 starting position drivers to win at Talladega since 2000. There's only been 5. That's 40 races.
Mm-hmm.
So you're probably not going to pick the winner outside of there, but then again, it's DFS, so you want those positive, place differentials.
Yeah.
So, that's where you can get a little tricky and interesting there by picking a winner, potentially. But I'm going with Timmy Hill, Timmy Thrill, whatever you want to call him. Also, so let's go up here. Corey LaJoie was one that I was very interested in picking. He's fairly decent at these big super speedways. He's starting in 26. That's just a little high for me. Anthony Alfredo is an interesting option there in 30th. Alfredo has not been finishing well this year. Maybe he'll get a good finish. But the next driver that I'm going with is Kaz Garland. So Kaz Garland starting in 38th spot. He got a top 25 earlier on in the year. He got 30 points, DraftKings points at Daytona earlier this season. And 30 points at 5,800 is actually very good. I like Kaz Garland in that spot. He's got the engine to do it. He actually had some fastest laps, which was pretty interesting. And I do believe he'll probably ride around in the back. But I'm going with Kaz Garland. And so, yeah, that's my choice there. Another chalky option will be Justin Haley. He's starting in 34th. Haley has 2 Xfinity wins here at Talladega. He won at Daytona in the Cup Series. And I do think there is a craft and an ability to drive these tracks that certain drivers have and certain drivers do not have. And Haley, he's got to have it, right? Yeah. I mean, you win that much. It's
natural instinct.
It's kind of almost like you're seeing things happen before they actually do, and then you know when to pull out of the pack and, drive forward. And I think he's got that instinct. And he's very young. He's like 21 or 2. So the fact that he's won a race here in the Cup Series before is he won at Daytona, but you get the drift. I'm going with him anyway. He's starting in 34th, and I feel very good. I think he'll ride around, stay out of trouble, and you're probably going to see him end up getting a top 20, which is what I would want. And any other track, if you see me choose Timmy Hill, Kaz Garland, and Justin Haley at like Charlotte Motor Speedway or something, just disregard anything that I do. But at this race, I think it's feasible. You have 3 guys in the top 30 above starting spots.
Yep.
So that's what we're going with there. Ross Chastain, Daniel Suarez, Chris Buescher, Ryan Preece, Tyler Reddick. So Chastain starting in about 18th is about where he starts every week. Daniel Suarez starting in 19th. I think they'll run pretty well, but I could see them getting caught up in a wreck. Honestly, I tell you before not to go with your gut at a lot of other races. You want to go by what value is, but you don't really, like Yachts said, don't be afraid of just picking people. Don't even look at the salary, to be honest. The next driver that I'm going with is Ryan Preece. So Ryan Preece is starting in 29th at 6,400. I love the fact he's got the Hendrick engine program. Ryan Preece has the best average finish at the racetrack among active drivers at 11.5. He's also got Reese's peanut butter cups on the back quarter panel, which is pretty cool. So you see where I'm going with
it'll make some people hungry at the race.
Yeah, I mean, Reese's has got to get their time, and I think he'll be up front a lot. And, he tends to run very well at these tracks.
Oh, yeah.
What I can remember is when he was a rookie at the Daytona 500, him avoiding a wreck, like going 190 mile an hour and just like... You'll have to go check out that video on YouTube. I don't know what you would have. Ryan Preece, amazing save. I'm not sure. But he's he's a wheel man, and he can really drive at this track. He's pretty good. And Ricky Stenhouse is his teammate, so that may help a little bit. As you can tell, our average remaining salary is $13,450. Chris Buescher is another solid driver. Tyler Reddick, he's won here a bunch, and Daytona a bunch. And all 3, he hadn't won in the Cup Series, obviously, but he's won in a Trucks and the Xfinity Series. Starting in 20th, a driver that I'm going with this week is Chase Briscoe. So at 6,600, I'm going with the Stewart-Haas Racing's rookie, Chase Briscoe. So last season in the Xfinity Series, he started on the pole, albeit, I think he was on the pole at the Xfinity race. But he led most of the race. He's pretty good at restrictor plates. He normally runs in the top 15 in the Trucks and Xfinity Series. And I think this could be an event that can boost his season. So I fully believe they'll be riding around the back because Custer's starting in 27th, Almarola starting outside the top 10, and Harvick's also starting outside the top 10. You could see that team fall to the back. Maybe they'll avoid some wrecks. That's about all I can say on that one. Cole Custer is another great option. He's starting in 27th. You got 2 more spots there, so that's interesting. Bubba Wallace is a driver that I had a gut feeling that he could be contending. Almost pulled the trigger on him as well. Michael Mcdowell won at Daytona. He's an interesting option. In terms of, and I'm sure Yachts is going to touch on this on FanDuel, laps completed is very important in that. And Ryan Newman is the leader in that. So he's starting in 28th. I really wanted to go with Ryan Newman, but I didn't. Dillon's another decent restrictor plate driver, has won at Daytona. So let me just scroll up here. Harrison Burton's going to be another chalky option at 7,900. I don't know about Harrison Burton. I heard him make comments that, he's going to ride around the back, try to learn things. And to me, I don't know that Harrison Burton's remotely close to being ready in the Cup Series.
I wouldn't trust him.
Yeah, there's a lot of drivers that are kind of getting thrown in there. Jennifer Jo Cobb was supposed to make her start here, and she actually got pulled because of performance, which was interesting. Being that, I don't know how to go on that fence. NASCAR just makes some wild decisions sometimes. But Harrison Burton's going to be in the field in the 96 Gaunt Brothers racing car. I don't know why Ty Dillon wasn't in the race because Ty is great at Talladega.
Yep.
And what I'm just going to go ahead and pick my driver. So, as you can tell, I have 40th, 38th, 34th, 29th, 25th. So, I'm kind of going upwards, right? The next driver that I'm picking is purely a tournament choice, and that is Joey Logano. Joe Logano's at $9,800. I know he's starting in second, and that is a terrible way to do this. But his average finish is 16th, which is just so-so. He's won 3 races here. One thing that came out to me is he's led in 10 of the last 11, and Denny Hamlin's on the pole. Logano's ultra aggressive. He's going to get up front, and Logano is going to lead laps. So, I really like Logano to win this race, to be honest with you. So that's really the only reason why I'm going with him. The only other driver I was considering not picking Logano would have been Ricky Stenhouse Jr. at 17. But I think that Logano is going to be leading a lot of the laps, and I think he can control the race, and I know he'll do a lot of blocking, but then again, that's really risky. So, I mean, to me, that's my tournament jab there, is Joey Logano. So this is what I'm ultimately rolling out, and I'll clear it out and go really quick. So we got Joey Logano, Chase Briscoe at 6,600, Joey Logano at 9,800, Ryan Preece at 6,400, Justin Haley at 5,900, Kaz Garland at 5,800, and Timmy Hill at 5K. So there we go. Not the best looking lineup in terms of performance, but I really feel good about this one. But again, it's pure luck to me. If you're going off a pure performance base, it's hard not to go Brad Keselowski starting in 10th. It's hard not to go Joey Logano at 9,800. Then I would go Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He has one at Talladega, right?
Who?
Ricky Stenhouse?
He has.
Yeah, so
yeah, he has.
He's starting in 17th. I'd probably go Eric Almarola starting in 14th. Definitely go Ryan Preece just because of performance at 6,400. That leaves us with 61, and guess what? I'm going Justin Haley. That would be like just one I'd pop off the top of my head. I like it pretty good.
That's a nice lineup there, I feel like.
That would be terrible. Who knows? Maybe I'll roll that one out. I don't know. That's not going to be my ultimate one, but there you go. So that's my DraftKings strategy, I guess. So I'll excuse the birds in the background. We got the windows open. So all right. So I head over to Yachts on FanDuel.
Well, he touched on it earlier about completed laps, and that's definitely going to mean the thing. But more importantly, it's going to be finishing the race, just finishing the race, being there in the end, being up at the top at the end. So I don't think there's anybody better in the current history in the Cup Series than Ryan Newman. So we're going to roll out. Ryan Newman is going to be our number 1 pick. Ryan Newman, since entering the number 6 car at Roush, he has a 9.8 average finish in the last 4. Couple interesting stats about him. He has completed all laps in the last 7. And that's exactly what you want. You want consistency at these tracks. And he has it. And to dig a little deeper, of the last 17, he's completed 99.2% of the laps.
That's pretty good.
That is very impressive. And starting in 28th, he's going to give you the positive position differential if he's there in the end. And I think he's just a great pick at Talladega in general. I'm not sure if he's won here or not. I'm not sure. But anyway, he's very consistent here. And that's what you want. So I'm going to go back up to the top.
He hasn't won.
He hasn't. I didn't think he had. We're going to go back up the top. FanDuel has the pretty standard Tier 1 from 12,000 up. It's 12,000, 12,500, 13, 13,500. They go in these little increments, and that's been the standard ever since I've known it. I don't think there was too much difference in like the stacking of the lineup, the prices compared to DraftKings this week. It doesn't appear that way anyway. Brad Keselowski's at the top, Ryan Blainey second, Logano, Hamlin, Almarola, Elliott. So we're going to go back up there, though, towards the end.
Almarola is priced a little higher, looks like.
He is. He is, but he is really good here. I think in his last, I want to say like 6 races, he's got like 5 top 10s.
8 the last 10.
So he's another really consistent driver here, and he's there in the end. So that's what you want. But we're going to go down because our focus, especially at these super speedways, is towards the end. Who's going to be these guys in the end, towards the bottom of the roster that are going to be there in the end? Because there's usually a handful still available in the end. Austin already talked about McLeod, and he picked Timmy Hill. Quinn Howe has a decent history here, considering. That's really cool about the number 28 with Joey Gase. I thought I saw something about that. I thought it was going to be like next week, but it's this week. That's really cool. Harrison Burton, he's at 3,000.
That's big difference.
He's 3,000. He was what, 7,900 on DraftKings.
Yeah.
I don't feel safe enough to pick him, especially it doesn't really matter at Talladega as much, but I just don't feel safe picking him. I want to see more races before I pull the trigger on that.
First start and everything.
For sure. We're going to move up a little bit. Daniel Suarez, 19th starting spot. I mean, it doesn't really matter, starting spot, but he could run well here. I mean, any of these guys could run well, to be honest. But we're going to go with Justin Haley. I think he'll be picked a lot, but I think he's going to be one of those guys in the end. He just has that instinct, like Austin was saying, and I just wanted to have these guys that have the instinct to finish the race. In the only race that he ran last year at Talladega, he finished 11th. Starting from the 34th spot. I don't remember where he started. It was probably around 34th. I want to say it's like 32nd, but don't quote me on that. He finished 11th last year in the fall, and he just has a good history in the Xfinity at super speedways. Like Austin said, he was the winner at a Daytona race. It was the summer race at Daytona. I believe it was weather delayed, but still he was running pretty well if I recall. And he has 2 wins in the Xfinity Series at Talladega in only 3 races. So
he started 35th at
35th. I knew it was in the 30s. I didn't remember exactly where it was. Justin Haley, I think he's about as close to a sure thing as you're going to get at the bottom, especially at this track. So we're going to move up. Michael McDowell was an interesting option. 5,500, that's cheap. And you're going to find if you're doing your FanDuel lineup, if you pick like 2 guys below like the 6,000, 6,500 cutoff line, maybe a little bit higher, 7,000, you're going to have a lot of options that you can go with up towards the top, and you can do whatever you want, basically. Michael McDowell, starting in 23rd, Daytona 500 winner. It wasn't weather delay. Well, it was a weather delay, but he finished the whole thing.
Yep.
Starting in 23rd, that could be a good spot for him. He could remain safe, but he's in the middle of it all, so I don't know. It's just so tough to pick. It's just so tough to pick these kind of races. We're going to move up. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about these drivers because it really is just, you got to get creative. Yeah. It's just random. You don't know what's going to happen. There were 13 cautions, I think, in last year's race. 13. Mm-hmm. So on average, I want to say in like the last 10, on average, it's probably about 8 or 9 cautions each race. So
yeah, roughly. Yeah.
So it's just, you can't really have a strategy. You can make a strategy, but it may not do you a bit of good in the end. Ryan Preece was one of those guys he's another one of those guys that has the instinct at these super speedways. He, like Austin said, 4 races he's ran here, and he's just outside the top 10. He has the best average finish. I think he'll be picked a lot, though, and I had him in my lineup earlier today, actually, and I was like, I think he'll be picked a lot. So I'm gonna shake it up a little bit. But I didn't stray too far away from that price point. I considered Austin Dillon. He has a decent track record at super speedways, and Alex Bowman was the last winner last week, and he could stay up there towards the top 5. Who knows? 8,500, that's cheap for him too. But I'm gonna cut it off about here, and I'm gonna go with Christopher Bell. Christopher Bell has only raced 2 races in the Cup Series for the 95 Levine Family Racing. Not good news. Not good news, and I think that's going to stray a lot of people away because his average finish, I think, is 34 in his 2 races at Talladega in the Cup Series. But don't let that fool you. He is a good super speedway driver. He has a 7.5 average finish in the Xfinity. He's only raced 2 races, but 7.5, that's really solid. That's about where he's starting, so that in the end, that's what you want. You just want guys to finish. Just to finish the race and finish on the lead lap. Moving on, though, 7.0 average finish in 3 Truck Series races. And to follow along with the super speedway, he's got 3 top 10s in the Xfinity Series at Daytona. I think he's ran, I want to say, just 4 races at Daytona. I want to say, I didn't write it down, but I think that's all it was. 4 races, so he's just really solid here. He's never won at a super speedway, but could be his day to get his first. Because he ran well this year as well, so who knows? Who knows? I wanted to get, well, Christopher Bell was one of those guys that I just kind of popped in there at the end. I wanted to get at least 2 guys that are just around the front because they could just ride it out and ride out everything and go stay away from all the cautions. Kevin Harvick was an interesting pick. He ran well last week, and 9,200. That's very cheap for him. Tyler Reddick, I think he'll be picked a decent amount. He's decent here at Talladega. I think I want to say he's got mostly top 10s in all his races, so he's good here, and he's good at Daytona as well. So I feel like I'm just rambling, but it's just one of those things. It's just so tough to tell how to pick Talladega, how to pick Daytona. One guy, I don't think hardly anybody's going to be picking him. Martin Truex. Martin Truex does not have a good track record at Talladega. And for that matter, he doesn't at Daytona either. He's not won a super speedway in the Cup Series in his career. He doesn't have 1 win. However, we'll get into that a little later on, but he has a 21.5 average career finish at Talladega. I think it's 30 races. It's either 30 or 32 races in total, and he's got a 21.5 career average finish. But I wanted to focus on the positive, especially when you're picking a guy that's just historically not great here. Focus on the positives. He has been running in the last 5. He's been there in the end in the last 5. He hasn't completed all the laps, but his car has been in running condition in the last 5. And in the last, I want to say 7 races, he's either finished 23rd or 26th in 6 of the last 7. I think that's the stat I kind of had in my head as of late.
7 of the last 7, 26 or better.
Yeah, it's been either 23rd or 26th that he's finished. I think he's finished 23rd. I think 4 times. He's finished 26th 2 times, and he finished 20th 1 time. That's just all from memory. I don't know if that's exactly right, but that sounds right to me. Not great, but it's just one of those things. You want guys that nobody's picking as well. You want guys that complete laps and be there in the end, but you want guys that nobody's picking. I don't think anybody's going to be picking Martin Truex, especially in the third starting position. 10,000, that's very cheap for him. But like I've been saying, salary does not matter in FanDuel. If you pick two guys below average, you can pick literally anybody you want. I was fooling around with it earlier, and you can pick literally anybody you want. If you get somebody like Ryan Newman, Justin Haley, like I've said earlier, you can pick literally anybody. You can pick Brad Keselowski on down if you want, in order. But we're going to roll out with Martin Truex. I don't think anybody's going to be picking him. Going to move up. Ricky Stenhouse. Usually in the past, he's a guy that I feel like you just got to have in your lineup. But I'm gonna bypass him this week. Starting 17th, 11,000. You don't see that every day.
No.
You don't see that every day as far as Ricky Stenhouse's prices go. But I think he's a good option. I don't think you can go wrong with him, and I don't think he's going to have a ton of people picking him. I mean, that may be the case. I don't know. I think he'll be a good pick, though. And he's ran well all year. Eric Almarola is one of those guys that's just really consistently good. Like I said earlier, but we're gonna pass on him. I considered Chase Elliott. He's a former winner here, but ultimately I decided not to go with him. We have one driver left, and I'm gonna look at the price. We have $18,800 left to spend on one driver, and like I said, you have almost 5,000 excess. So you can literally pick anybody you want if you just go with a couple below average picks as far as the pricing is concerned. Brad Keselowski is the current wins leader among current drivers at 5. He's really good here, but as of late, he's not been finishing well here. So I think a lot of people are going to be thinking, hey, I think he's going to turn it around this week, but I'm going to pass up on him this week. 14,000. I mean, it's not high. I'm not going to say it's high, but it's a lot of risk for a race like this. Joey Logano was another guy I was considering, but I feel like I've been picking him so much here lately. But he's good. He's good almost everywhere. Ryan Blainey's, I think he's won 2 of the last 3. You can't go wrong really with Ryan Blainey, and I think the 7th starting spot, I think he has good potential to avoid trouble and be there in the end. But our last pick is going to be Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin will be picked a lot, yes. Starting from the pole, he's just been the best driver all year, and he hasn't got anything to show for it. He doesn't have one win this year, and I think Talladega will be his win. I think he's going to be the winner today. I mean, well, you may be seeing it on race day, but 10.3 average finish in the last 6. Another interesting stat of the last 8 races in the Cup Series, the pole sitter has won twice. So it's very, very, very possible. Very possible that the pole sitter could win yet again. But here's another thing. Denny Hamlin was one of those guys in the fall race last year. So the most recent winner was Denny Hamlin starting from the pole. And I think he could do it again. He's good at these super speedways. He's awesome at Daytona. I think he's got 2 or 3 wins. I'm pretty sure it's 2 wins at Talladega. He's just another one of those guys that's just going to be there in the end. Very likely he's going to be there in the end. He's going to be competing. And he's had the car all year. And I think he'll have the car this week at Daytona. Talladega. They're pretty much the same. We're going to clean it up, though. I started from the bottom to the top, but we're gonna make this work. Denny Hamlin. There's nothing really else to say. He's good here. He's been running well all year long. Price doesn't matter, and pole sitters do win here. So that's just some things to keep an eye on there. Martin Truex not straying too far away in the 3rd spot. We could see Martin Truex sort of following in line behind Denny Hamlin the whole race. At least that's what I hope. $10,000, starting in the third spot. Not so great here at Talladega, but you got to take a chance somewhere, and Truex is about as good of a chance as you're going to get if you're going to pick a driver. Christopher Bell doesn't have a great track record here in his 2 starts, but he does have a good track record in the lower series of NASCAR, in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. So 9,000. I don't think people's going to be rolling out with Christopher Bell a ton this week, but I think he could be one of those guys in the end that's just going to prove some people wrong and just stay up there. Ryan Newman's going to be one of those guys that's just consistent at this track. 28th, here's where you're going to get your position differential points. Well, one of the places, hopefully. He's not ran terribly bad this year, but at Talladega, he's just really consistent. It's hard to pass up, especially in that 28 starting spot. He's had in the past, he's avoided trouble, and I think he can do it again for sure. And we're going to go towards the bottom a little lower and end it with Justin Haley. Justin Haley is one of those guys with the instinct that we've been saying for the whole video. Is a super speedway winner in the Cup Series. He's been there and done that, so to speak, and he's only, like you said, like 22, I think. He's around that age range anyway. He's just really solid at Daytona and Talladega. Just one of those guys. So that's what we have rolled out for you for FanDuel.
All right, so there you can see me and Yachts are going with 2 pretty different strategies. The thing about FanDuel is finishing position is very important. So picking the drivers that are starting up towards the front of the field is a lot more important than, say, on DraftKings. Because DraftKings, the big one can happen at any moment, and then you just get dumped on in terms of place differential because it's 1 point compared to, 0.1?
Yeah.
So it's just a big difference. You're going to catch a lot of things in our video. We're going to say, we think this driver's a good value. We like this driver. And honestly, that's probably what you're thinking when you're making your lineup as well. Your ability to pick a lineup is honestly, I believe you could put all names in a hat and pick out 6.
Yeah.
Albeit you have to go by, albeit you have to go by a salary. But this is kind of what we would do if we're doing a lineup.
FanDuel, you probably don't.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's pretty much what we're rolling out, I guess, with DraftKings and FanDuel, the Sports Chief. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, just say something below here the video. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Hit the bell notification that lets you know when our videos go up live. Also, check out our website at thesportschief.com. We're on Twitter and Instagram at thesportschief, as you all know. And so we're doing golf articles, wrestling articles. We actually did. Somebody put out a movie review today.
I did.
Everything's looking pretty good. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, again, just say something on the bottom. And best of luck to you at Dega.
Alrighty. Thank you.